Good morning. Welcome to the stay-at-home round robin. This round robin, every Friday, I will give you what the border will be next week. Today is just the beginning, and I have made an 8.5-inch block. This is a sawtooth star block, which I made using my AccuQuilt Go cutter and the 8-inch Go Cube, and it makes an 8-inch finished block. The block as it is now is 8.5-inch unfinished. Once we put the seam allowances in, it'll be 8 inches finished. The sawtooth star that I made is in the Go Cube Quilt in a Day book by Eleanor Burns. And once you cut your pieces out, super easy with the AccuQuilt cutter. It was really easy to piece it together. I'm also going to use Island Batik fabrics. I have a lot of purple scraps left from other projects, and I also have a couple of half-yard cuts of these purples, and this solid, it's called Amethyst, and I'll be using those. Hopefully I'll have enough. If I don't, that's okay. I'll venture into maybe the teals, the blues, the pink, I don't know, maybe even green. There's green in this purple one. So we'll see what happens. I might have enough. I really don't know because I haven't planned it out beyond this week. And so here's my 8.5-inch star. Now you can probably see that I've got a piece of batting here. I took some batting pieces and I've joined them with a zigzag here, and I cut it to about 42-inch square. I added a piece of flannel on the back, and I actually sandwiched the batting and the flannel. Then I folded the whole thing in half this way, pressed it so I had a fold line here, and I folded it in half the opposite way, pressed it so I had a fold line this way, and then I stitched down it. And this is providing the background for my round robin Quilt As You Go, and I'm going to do it as a Quilt As You Go. Or I said round robin Quilt As You Go. It's round robin, stay at home. I'm going to do it as a quilt as you go. You can do it and make a flimsy and quilt it afterwards, or if you have batting and a backing at home, you can do it as you wish, or as a quilt as you go. Now, I have done an 8.5-inch square to start with. If you do an 8.5-inch block to start with, it'll be really easy for you to follow along. If you decide to do a 10-inch square or a rectangle or whatever, it'll still work, but it's going to be up to you to do the math to figure it all out. Because otherwise I'll have people saying, well, can you do it for a 10-inch? Can you do it for a 12-inch? Can you do it for a rectangle? The answer is no. I'm doing it for an 8.5-inch star, or 8.5-inch block. I have chosen to do a star. You could take a piece of fabric and have it an 8.5-inch piece of fabric, one of those ones you don't want to cut up and you want the pattern to see. It's totally up to you how you do this. It's your quilt. I'm using purple fabrics. You can use everything, anything. It doesn't matter. If you want to go all scrappy, it's totally up to you. It's your quilt, not mine. I'm just showing you what I'm doing. And so I've got these registration lines that I actually sewed, and they're just going to be a guide as we go along to placement for the center block and the rows as rounds, the borders as we go along. And I just lined it up, and the center of my block is lined up against that line and against this line, so it's centered. Might not be perfect, but it's fine. It'll work out. It's a quilt, and once it's all washed, everything comes out fine. Okay, and you probably noticed these green pins here. I've just pinned it on the batting and backing, and that's to hold it into place while I go and sew this on the machine. I am just going to sew from the point right here, a 1/4 inch away from the edge, down to here, and I'm going to do that 4 times, and that will be it. Next week, when I add the next border, I will sew it on, and it will be joined here. If you're not doing a quilt as you go, once you make your block, put it away till next week, and we'll come back. Just going to take this down from my design wall and go over to the sewing machine and show you how I'm going to quilt it. Okay, as I was taking a little break going between showing you my thing and going to the machine to do the quilt as I go, my husband asked a few valid questions, and some of you may not want to do a quilt as you go round robin, so I decided I'm going to do 2 quilt as you, not quilt as you go. I'm going to do 2 stay-at-home round robins. This one is going to start with an 8.5 inch gray square, which I may embroider on or do some fancy quilting on or put a piece of applique on, I don't know. And it's going to be in blues, and the blues and gray. If you want to do white, you can actually make this into a quilt of valor. If you want to do, if you're American, want to do red, white, and blue. If you're Canadian, you could do it white and red, or wherever you are, you could do it in your country's colors if you want. So here's my quick pull of blue fabrics. Some of these are left over from a Quilt of Valor quilt I did last year. We were given a stack of batiks called Freedom, and I just used the red ones because I'm Canadian, and I have all the blue ones left over. And I also have some blue yardage of Island Batik, and this is, I believe, Primo fabric. So anything goes. And so that's going to be my blue stay-at-home round robin. Okay, I'm ready to do my quilting. Now I've got my walking foot on, and I have a stitch in the ditch foot for my walking foot. If you don't have one, you can still do this. And I have my machine set up to a 3.2. I want a longer stitch for the quilting. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my needle in right at the point, this point here, up there, and it's going to bring the thread up. It's a little short, so I use my tweezers and pull it out, and I'm going to lock my stitch. If you don't have a lock stitch, you can go forwards and backwards a few stitches. It's up to you. My machine has a lock stitch, and there it is, locked. Just going to remove the pin, and I'm just going to sew right stitch in the ditch all the way down to the next point, the point at the end here. And I'm going to lock the stitch. I'm not going to pull the threads back up. I'll just cut them from the back afterwards. And then these threads up here, I can just trim, and that'll be it. Now I will repeat this along here, here, and here. And that's going to be it. I'm thinking that maybe towards the end of when the quilt is finally done, I may do a stitch that comes all the way down the quilt diagonally. I might not. We'll see what happens, because I really don't know. Now, my husband was just pointing out the stitching of joining the batting. All I did was a huge wide zigzag and I joined it. And I tend to glue my batting together first, because otherwise it tends to bunch up when I zigzag. And yeah, and I've tried to find these joins after I'm finished a quilt, and unless I remember exactly where the joins are, I can't find them. So it works out just great. Okay, that's it, and I will talk to you next week when I show you the first round of our round robin. Thank you.